Do you know there is a rule that allows the commissioner to cancel a match in the middle of a game? Here are some weird and obscure NFL rules you didn't know existed. And first is the fair catch rule. This rule is used during kickoffs when the team that is receiving the ball decides to ask for a fair catch. When it takes place, they have two options. They can either begin their attacking possession normally or attempt a field goal. If they choose the field goal option, they must kick it from the same position where they made the fair catch. And the kicker must either drop the ball and then kick it or place it on the ground. Plus, the defense is not permitted to go closer than 10 yards from where the kick is made. Many feel that the fair catch rule takes away from the purpose of having a kicker who can cannon a ball from his own 10 all the way to his opponent's 10. Rich Eisen once said,
"The new rule that the NFL has adopted has basically destroyed the kickoff."
But some people, including former NFL quarterback Brady Quinn, feel the fair catch rule is designed for the safety of players. While speaking to Fox Sports, he said,
"But the idea, and this was talked about yesterday, is again, they want to improve player safety. This move they feel like is going to reduce the number of concussions by 15%.
But what do you think about this anyway? I guess I should also ask your thoughts on this next rule you probably didn't know existed. Do you know that NFL players cannot just choose whatever jersey number they wish? That means, if a player loved James Bond as a kid and wanted to express that love, the NFL police are going to say no. No 007 here, man. They would then offer you a set of numbers you can choose from based on the position you are playing. For example, a linebacker can only wear numbers 1 through 59 and 90 to 99, while a quarterback, punter, and kicker can only pick from numbers 1 to 19. So the numbers the players choose gives you an idea of the position they play on the field. The rule used to be stricter back then, as players were only allowed to choose from 20 to 49. But when teams started to retire jersey numbers, something had to be done, which led to the new NFL jersey number rule by position. Maybe the NFL is going to tell you what type of chick to date next. Anyway, at least the jersey number rule is clear enough. And the same can be said of the next rule. This rule is pretty clear. If you score a touchdown, please don't freaking dunk the ball in the goalpost. This is not the NBA, and you are not LeBron James. But if you still want to be stubborn and dunk anyways, then the penalty is a fine of $12,000. Just ask Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, who learned the hard way when he was fined $12,500 in 2020 for breaking the rule. By the way, this rule used to be accepted and was more like a signature post-touchdown move for former NFL tight end Tony Gonzalez. But everything changed in 2014 following the incident that involved Jimmy Graham of the New Orleans Saints in 2023. After scoring a touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons, he dunked the ball in their goalpost and bent it in the process, which led to delays as workers worked on the goalpost. In any case, there are some players who have gotten creative at beating this rule. Wide receiver Mark Hollins in 2021 scored a touchdown and then proceeded to dunk the ball. No flags were thrown, no fine was given. You know why? Because he didn't touch the goalpost. And that, my friend, is allowed by the NFL. But not all rules have loopholes like this. Certainly not the game ball rule. Under this rule, the balls used in games must be a specific brand called Wilson, and it must carry the signature of the commissioner of the league, Roger Goodell. It must also contain 12.5 to 13.5 pounds of air and weigh 14 to 15 ounces. This rule became well known after the Deflategate scandal involving the New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady. Brady was allegedly part of the illegal deflation of the footballs used in the 2014 AFC Championship game against the Indianapolis Colts, which the Patriots had won. It's said that the deflation gave them an unfair advantage, and as for Brady's punishment, he was suspended for 4 games without pay, and the Patriots were fined $1 million. Moving on is one obscure rule that may take several repeats of finding before it can be understood. But let's see if you get it on the first listen. The NFL amended its rule on quarterback sacks in 2014. In the past, when the defense successfully sacked the quarterback, the referee would sound the whistle and stop the time. Before the game continued, this allowed the quarterback to get some much-needed rest while giving the receivers time to rejoin their huddle. However, the NFL decided to make it so that the time would continue to run after a sack. This rule was introduced to prevent teams from using tackles to stop the clock to gain an advantage. This next rule may not be so obscure if you look at it properly. There are multiple forms of defensive penalties committed by the defensive teams, But this particular rule involves penalties committed by the defensive team that happens behind the line of scrimmage. Initially, when a defensive penalty occurs, the opposing offense is given the advantage of going closer to the goal line. But this is not the case anymore because now, under this rule, defensive penalties are enforced at the original line of scrimmage, especially those behind the line of scrimmage, unlike offensive penalties carried out at the site of the violation. Why is this, you might ask? Well, it's a method of ensuring fairness and maintaining the game's integrity. It stops the defensive team from acquiring an unfair advantage by committing fouls closer to the end of the play by applying defensive penalties from the original line of scrimmage. It keeps the game balanced and prevents the offense from being penalized more than necessary. I bet you $1 you didn't know that before. And you probably haven't heard of a palpably unfair act either, but here it is. This rule is hardly ever invoked. In fact, it's never been used in an NFL game. However, it's called when the officials see a team that has been illegally prevented from scoring a touchdown. For instance, if a fan in the stands or a player who should be on the bench enters the field and prevents an opponent from scoring a touchdown, the opposing team that was stopped would receive points, yardage, or more time. Sometimes the game might even be canceled. Say a riot starts mid-game. It sounds scary, but so far, the rule is actually just there, just in case. Two other instances that could constitute a palpably unfair act are committing multiple fouls in order to stop an opponent from scoring, and coaches and players using abusive language against officials and opponents. So, if a player or coach or even a fan commits a palpably unfair act, they could be ejected or their opponents would receive points. For example, if a palpably unfair act stops the opponent from scoring a touchdown, the opponent is awarded 6 points. Anyway, this unfair act rule has a brother called the extraordinarily unfair act. Ever heard of this one? Under this rule, the NFL commissioner is allowed to take strong actions in response to highly exceptional actions during a game. These strong actions can include imposing fines, making the team involved give up future draft picks, or even suspending players. The commissioner also has the authority to change the outcome of a game. According to NFL Rule 17, this means they can rule that the team that committed the unfair act loses the game, while the team that was mistreated wins automatically. They can also order the entire game to be replayed or cancel the results from when the unfair act happened, and resume the game from the point just before it occurred. The game must be restarted within 48 hours of the unfair act or other unexpected occurrence. If the time limit is exceeded, the game must be redone from the start. Although this rule has never been invoked, the NFL considered using the extraordinarily unfair act rule when fans threw snowballs onto the field during a game between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins in 2022. The excitement of the fans could have cost them the game. And speaking of excitement, players try not to get too excited when taking a leap because of this next rule. This rule states that you get disqualified in extreme situations or get a 15-yard penalty from the line of scrimmage if, while an offensive team attempts to kick a field goal or an extra point, the defensive team can't pull or push their own team members in order to gain extra height momentum to block the field goal. The reason for this penalty is to reduce incidents of injury that arise as a result of a team trying to block a field goal by leaping onto another player. For instance, in the game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Denver Broncos in 2017, Dallas's DeMarcus Lawrence committed an illegal leverage on a 50-yard field goal. This led to the Dallas Cowboys losing to the Broncos by a whopping 25 points. But to cap this one off is another unclear and uncommon rule of the NFL. In the NFL, there is one of the weirdest and lesser-known rules in the rulebook. According to this rule, if the quarterback who is positioned under center fails to catch the ball as it goes in between his legs, he must be the next person to touch it. If any other player, even from the opposing team on defense, touches the ball before the quarterback, it is considered a false start penalty against the offense. And for the final rule, subscribe to this channel, like and share this video, or get fined $1,000. See you in the next exciting video. Cheers!